Everybody, welcome back. Looking at the Tuesday NBA slate, we have 9 games today. Hopefully, you guys had a good day yesterday. It was a pretty low-scoring slate, but ended up doing well thanks to Kendrick Nunn was great. LeBron did his thing. Once Porzingis was ruled out, made some adjustments. I posted them on Twitter. So let's see what today brings. Got it done on both sites yesterday. 9 games today, a lot to discuss. So let's not waste too much time. As always, appreciate you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Twitter's in the description for updates. You can check out the website or check out Prize Picks if you want some free cash to play over there. So, starting off here, well, first we'll look at the Vegas totals. I think I'll start focusing on this a little bit more. I haven't really been showing this, or I think most people look at this, but not everybody. But I think it's pretty important, especially on big slates. So, 9 game slate today. We have one game that is absolutely jumping off the page. We have Sacramento and Brooklyn, two of the worst defensive teams, two teams that play super fast. And both teams could be very hampered by injuries. The Kings, depending on Harrison Barnes, the Brooklyn Nets are already hampered with Kevin Durant. They could be more hampered today with no Jeff Green or no TLC. So that total at 242 looks like you want to get a lot of pieces from that game. Then we have a pretty high spread here between Milwaukee and Minnesota, but both teams do play fast, and Milwaukee is a team that has been allowing teams to stay in games recently, so could look to some pieces in that game. But really, I love the Brooklyn game the most. Second favorite game is this Portland game, which is between Portland and Denver. Should be a pretty close game here, 7.5 point spread right now, but Portland has been playing great. They can probably stay in it with all the injuries on Denver. So that's my second favorite game to target. We have a couple of games we don't have a lot of totals on, but those two games are the favorites to target on the slate. So starting off at point guard, you have Luka Doncic coming off one of his few duds recently. He only had 43 against the Grizzlies. That game they were up by like 20, I think, in the fourth. So it ended up getting close to 10, but he only played 33 minutes. Could have done a lot better. I mean, you would have thought he would have done a lot better without Kristaps. Porzingis might be back today as a back-to-back for them. They might have just held him out in the first half of back-to-back against the Grizzlies. So we'll see. If he's out, then I think you can go back to Luka Doncic. But really love James Harden today at 10-7. He's been playing huge minutes. Steve Nash is really letting Harden and Kyrie play big minutes in every sort of competitive game. He played 41 against the Clippers, 38 against the Lakers. Ever since Durant's been out, he's been doing his thing, 70s, 60s. 10-7 is a really nice price tag. He's my favorite spend up on the slate, especially against the Sacramento team who gives up a lot of threes, doesn't play defense, and expecting this game to go absolutely bonkers. Lillard 10-4 against Denver is in play as well on a back-to-back. Struggled yesterday, just made 1 3 out of 7 attempts, had 6 turnovers. He's always a bounce-back candidate here. Only played 29 minutes, so not too much of a worry on a back-to-back. But I still like Harden a lot more. Then Westbrook, who played in the most recent back-to-back for them, played 44 minutes, though, against the Lakers. We'll see. That game went into overtime. We'll see if they keep him out there again. If he's not, then definitely want to go to Bradley Beal. But if he's in, he's playable. Although, I think, I always keep saying I think James Harden looks great. And then the 9K range, you have, besides Westbrook, you have Trae Young and Ben Simmons. Young is playing a lot better recently, but he's also a pretty volatile player. It's against Cleveland. They don't play great defense. They give up some threes, so he's in play. 97 is a pretty high price tag. So at this price tag, I need at least 60. He's definitely been able to get that done recently. So he's more of a tournament option than a cash play, especially when we have some more cheap options that we'll get to. I'm not really interested in Ben Simmons against the Raptors 9,000. He was fine last game with Embiid back, but even 48 Draftkings points at 92 isn't really doing much. So the guy I really like besides Harden is going to be Kyrie, who's only 8,800 as price tag. Him and Harden's price tag are really nice for guys that will play huge minutes in close games. Kyrie struggled with his 3-point shooting last few games, but still having a tremendous season, shooting over 50% from the floor, 40% from three. Guy that can get absolutely hot from the floor. Great matchup against Sacramento. Put up 57 against them earlier this season. We had Harden put up 70 against them, 72 against them earlier this season. So it's really hard not to like both of Kyrie and James Harden today. So I really like how you can play Kyrie at shooting guards. They're not just both point guard eligible, which really frees things up. But looking at some other point guard options, I like Dioram Fox as a run it back here in this game. Been struggling recently, no other way around it, but the assists are still there. The scoring has not been there every game, but it's one of the better spots that the Kings have had in terms of just being able to push the pace and just put up some points here, especially if Barnes is out. I'm expecting him to have a big game very soon, and I don't want to miss it. So Fox against the Brooklyn Nets is a guy I'll definitely get to. You have Jamal Murray, Fred VanVleet. VanVleet, depending on Lowry news, Jamal Murray's in play just because they're shorthanded. Not interested in Colin Sexton. If Lowry plays, he's only 71, so he looks like a pretty good value, like mid-range option. And now we have Halliburton and Kemba. Halliburton coming off of a big game. Last time out, 48 DraftKings points, being mainly dependent on the Barnes news. If he's out, then I think you can go back to Halliburton here. And then Kemba had a really good game. We'll see. Had a really good game 2 days ago, and then he went back to struggling. He's been super tough to trust this season. I did have him on Fanduel against the Hawks, but I don't want to really. He's fine, but I don't want to force him in there because we still have Brown, we still have Tatum. So I like to play Kemba whenever Tatum or Brown sits. And then I don't have interest in Lou Williams. Really don't have much interest in Garland or Rubio. We have a lot of value at this position. We have a few value pieces and we have a lot of studs, so I want to get to the studs. And the value, I don't really want to focus in this mid-range. Speaking of some value, you have Campazzo at 4,400. He's going to get like 20-plus minutes off the bench. He looks fine. Dennis Smith was awful. Only played 15 minutes, even though he started. You have Shake Milton as really cheap at 3,900. But Saban Lee looks to be the guy that the Pistons might start today. He's a rookie. I think a rookie out of I think at Tennessee, or maybe probably think Tennessee, but don't quote me on that. But he wasn't getting much playing time earlier, but now without DeLon Wright, now that Derrick Rose is a Knick, and now that Dennis Smith isn't really doing much for them, Saban Lee is a guy that they'll probably start or at least give significant minutes to. So he's a guy that I think looks to be one of the better value plays on the slate. I'll plug him in at the guard spot. Moving on to shooting guard, we have Bradley Beal at 95, mainly dependent on the Westbrook news. It's a tough spot going up against the Clippers after an overtime game yesterday. Bradley Beal's been really shooting the ball great. The Wizards have won 5 in a row, so they're finally starting to come together. He is going to be dependent on the Westbrook news for me. I don't want to pay that much for him if Westbrook is in. Paul George, they held him out the last few minutes of the game because he kind of reached his minutes limit, which was sad because he was on pace for like over 60. He was having a great game. Really good spot to go to some of these Clippers against the Wizards, but it's tough to pick between George and Kawhi. VanVleet, 85. I'm only going to be dependent on if Lowry's out. If Lowry's in, I don't have any interest there. Middleton finally had a good game, had like 6 stocks, so kind of helped him. 84 against Minnesota, great matchup. Price tag quickly jumped on him, so I'm not interested. Same thing with Jaylen Brown. He's 8,000 now, so it's a fine spot against Dallas, but when Kemba and Tatum are both in, I don't really get to Brown much, especially on a big slate. And that in the 6K range, looking at like Fournier has been doing a lot, but almost 7,000 for him is not something I want to go to on one of the lowest scoring games on the slate, projected to be. We have Halliburton, who I like. I like Buddy Hield in this type of spot where they're going to be able to put up points. Buddy Hield should get a lot of open threes. So I'll probably go Hield over Halliburton just based on the matchups here. Then Wiggins, dependent on if Curry's out or not. Anthony Edwards has been struggling with the shot. I feel like if he has a decent shooting game, he's going to put up 30 plus. But hasn't really happened recently. Shot under 30%, 3 straight games. The minutes are still there. It's a lot different of a spot because Milwaukee does give up points and they play fast. So you could go to him. The 58 is definitely a nice price tag. He's not going to be popular. Then you have Chetty Osman, Joe Harris. I like Osman a little bit more just because he gives you a little bit more peripheral upside. Only made 3 field goals, but he still put up 25 fantasy points with Prince doubtful still. His minutes should be secure, and the matchup is really nice against the Hawks. And then we have Michael Porter has been really bad. He only played 19 minutes. He was in foul trouble early, and then the coach kind of just went away from him. But they're still very limited with missing both of their power forwards and missing Gary Harris. So there's going to be a lot of potential for Porter to go off. 62 with people jumping off, I think you could make an argument to go to him. 5K range, I like Osman the most. You can look to some Barrett or like Barton, but I like Osman a little bit more. And then the 4K range, it's Josh Richardson at 4,700. He looks fine. I think Tim Hardaway looks great coming off of a 37-point outing without Kristaps. And now in this matchup, Maxi Kleber left the game, so if Kleber is out and Porzingis is back, there's still a spot that opens up in the starting lineup. They could start Powell or Willie Cauley-Stein, or they could put Porzingis at the 5 and start like Tim Hardaway. So either way, I think he's still in line for high 20s in minutes at least. So he's a guy that I like. Richardson as well is in play. I think Hardaway gives you a little bit more upside just because he shoots a lot more. And then for value, a few pieces here. We have Daquan Jeffries if Barnes is out again and he starts. He played 40 minutes. I mean, you never know what Luke Walton's going to do. He played Bielitsa no minutes last game. He played Jeffries 40. He's been starting a different player every time Barnes is out, so who knows whose turn it is this time. But Jeffries against the Brooklyn team that plays pretty small, besides, if Jeff Green starts at center, they play small. So you could definitely go Jeffries and give him a lot of minutes if Barnes is out. So keep an eye on that news. And that's mainly it. Moving on to power forward, we have Giannis, 11,000. He's the second favorite spend up besides Harden. Great spot against Minnesota this game. Could get out of hand, but who knows with how crazy this NBA season has been with blowouts and projecting them. So I think Giannis is fine, but I like Harden more. Don't think I'll get to 9,300 Julius Randle. Tatum looks great. He's been playing a lot better, but almost 9,000 with Kemba and Brown both in is not something I'll probably get to. Siakam's price tag has dipped. If Lowry's out, I think you can go to him. And then Grant's been fine. Been kind of mediocre recently. He has good games every once in a while. 76. I'd probably go with some of the value on the Pistons, then go up to Grant today at least. I like Porter at 62 just because people might jump off of him, and it's a good spot against Portland. This game should be very high scoring. You can go to Marvin Bagley, whose minutes starting to creep up, especially if Barnes misses again. He got up to 35 against Chicago. Got up to 29 in the most recent game. It's a really good spot against Brooklyn. They could play him a lot of minutes at the 5 if they wanted to, but Holmes is healthy now, so we'll see. But it's a spot where Bagley can get some minutes here. Cedi Osman looks very good at power forward or small forward. Bertans is 52. I'm not really looking at him against this Clippers team. They can definitely lock him up at the 3-point line. And then I don't really like Finney Smith. I'd rather go to Hardaway or go to Josh Richardson. And then for value, you have a few pieces. You have Al-Farouq Aminu, 3,400. He drew the start against the Pistons. Only played 19 minutes. It's only his few games that he's been back, but his minutes are creeping up. Could get into the low 20s today, and it's against the Pistons, who don't play great defense. He looks like a fine value option at $3,400. Or you can go to Zeke Naji, who's 3,100. And he played 30 minutes last game against the Hawks without both Millsap and both JaMychal Green, and both are out again today. So even though he only put up 11 fantasy points, I feel like if he closes this game, he'll still be able to get to 25 plus minutes, 25, 30 minutes, and 3,100 is definitely, you don't need a lot out of him to hit value. He's not been the best fantasy player at all, to say the least, but he's not given a lot of opportunity this season. So we'll see. He's been fine shooting the ball in his limited attempts. So I don't mind taking a shot right now with the lack of value. Besides Saban Lee and a few pieces, I think Naji could open up the door to get you some Harden, plus Irving plus another stud. So just for that reason, and the fact that power forward isn't going crazy besides Giannis at the top, I think he looks like a good play. At center, you have 4 or 5 tremendous spend-up options with Towns, Vooch, Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis. Towns finally had a great game, 60-plus fantasy points. It's a different spot against Milwaukee because Brook Lopez doesn't really camp around the basket. Price tag is 96. He looks fine if you wanted to get to him. Vooch had a tremendous game again, 10,200. I probably like Jokic the most, then Giannis, and then probably go Vooch, Towns, and Embiid. You don't have to go up to center if you don't want to. You have Clint Capella at only 7,900. We have a pretty nice price tag. I think Allen coming off of a couple of big games. I think he's priced up. He's 75, so he's against Capella, who's a pretty good defender. I don't think I'll get there. We have pretty good options in the 5K range with Bagley if you wanted to play him at 59. We have Holmes at 56, and we have DeAndre Jordan at 55. If Jeff Green sits, then you'll see DeAndre Jordan definitely get the start at center and probably play over 30 minutes. So I'm hoping Green sits this one out because it's a great spot for a guy like DeAndre Jordan to absolutely wreak some havoc in the front court here. Get a lot of rebounding opportunities, get some putback opportunities, and if there's no Jeff Green, there's going to be a lot more minutes for him just to play. So hoping Green is out. We'll definitely know before lock. 30 minutes after lock is this game starts. So hopefully Steve Nash doesn't hold out information. But I really like DeAndre Jordan at 55, assuming Jeff Green sits. And then last but not least, I have a lot of exposure to the Brooklyn Nets, so I want to run it back with the Sacramento King, and that is going to be Dioram Fox, who is one of my favorite players to watch. It's been tough recently for him, but I am expecting him to get back on track. Price tag is really good still. $8,000. He gives you 50, 60 point upside. And it's been like 5 or 6 games where he hasn't done much, like 4 games. It's only been 4 games. So I'm not going to give him too much of a hard time. These two teams just played recently, and that game went absolutely bonkers with a 125-136 score. So that was like 261. 261 total. That game went on the 15th of February. We could see like a 240 plus total today. Both teams play fast. I want to get exposure to this game. You can absolutely stack it up. So, yeah, definitely love some Fox. And that's mainly it. Like, a lot of exposure to this Brooklyn-Sacramento game. I like the Portland-Denver game to get some pieces from. And then go with some value pieces like in Saban Lee. We have Amino maybe in the Detroit-Orlando game. So, that's it for the DraftKings side. Go ahead and touch on my Fanduel plays. Okay, looking at the Fanduel plays, starting off at point guard, we have Luka is still over 11,000. He's 11-2 against the Celtics. If Porzingis is out, he looks better, but I think Porzingis will play, so right now I don't have much interest, especially when I want to get to a lot of the pieces in the Brooklyn game. Lillard looks fine at 10-3. You think you can go to him over Luka if Porzingis is in. And Curry's questionable. I don't want to play him if he's going to be, even if he plays, dealing with a bit of an illness. It's not like we're dealing with the lack of options. We have a ton of options on this slate. So I still love the price tag on Kyrie if Westbrook plays. Only 92, so he looks fine. But really, it's Kyrie Irving. Jamal Murray's been playing out of his mind recently, and that can definitely continue against Portland. But I still like Irving more than Jamal Murray. Fox is below 8,000, so he's a guy that I really like on FanDuel. And then in the value range, like Saban Lee is 5,000, so I don't want to play him even if he starts. Like, he looks a lot better on DraftKings at 3,200 than 5,000 on FanDuel with all these studs that we have. You have Monty Morris, who looks fine, 47. And that's it. I don't want to go too cheap here. So I like Kyrie Irving a ton, but I think I'll have to give the edge to Fox as my one preferred guy. At shooting guard, it's James Harden. I'm going to plug him in there. I like him more than Bradley Beal. Paul George looks great at 8,500 against Washington, but if he's still like on a decent minutes limit, then he still got up to like 33 minutes last game, so it wasn't super capped, but they're not going to let him play more than that. I still want to get the guys like James Harden who can play 40. Those extra minutes are huge. Van Fleet's, once again, depending on Kyle Lowry news. And then Wiggins, if there's no Curry, he's fine. I like both Halliburton and Hield. I'd probably go Hield over Halliburton. Just because I think Hield will get a ton of open threes in this type of game. Anthony Edwards, 58. Definitely playable. And then for value, it's like Terrence Ross, who even if it comes off the bench, he plays like 32, 33 minutes. Josh Jackson will get a lot more playing time without Wright, 5,100. You have Tim Hardaway if he ends up starting in this game potentially without Kleber, and then with Porzingis news still up in the air. And then Cam Reddish is 45. He's probable. He looks like a good value option here. And that's it for me. So James Harden it is at shooting guard, small forward. Kawhi is 98, so I'd rather go to Paul George even if Kawhi does play more minutes. You need 60 out of Kawhi at that price tag. Don't have interest in Siakam at 9,000 or really Brown. Kelly Oubre's priced up. I like Middleton more than Oubre. And then Evan Fournier has kind of been priced up as well, so I probably won't get to him. I think you can go to Michael Porter at 57, even though he's been struggling. I like Chetty Osman, 54. You have Derek Jones, you have Sadiq Bey, you have Joe Harris, all at 53. Out of the trio in 5,300, I'll probably go Harris, Bey, then Jones. But you have Osman and Barrett, who look great, especially Osman. Barrett looks fine. Then you have Barton at 5,200 if you don't want to play Michael Porter. And Jeffries is 47, so they priced him up. But if Barnes is out and he starts, he looks fine. Josh Richardson looks like a good value at 47. With or without Porzingis. Without Porzingis would be better. And Finney Smith is only 4,300. He only shot 2 of 10 last game. I think he's good enough to hit you some value here. So he looks like a good option, especially with Kleber probably not going to play after spraining his ankle. He'd probably go down to power forward if they decide to go small and start small here. So that'll definitely help him. Right now, I think, like Osman, I'll probably just bite the bullet on Michael Porter or Osman. Don't know. I'll go Osman right now. See where that ends up. Power forward, Giannis 11-3. He's the best option at power forward if you're not looking at salary, obviously. But you have Tatum $2,000 cheaper. We have Randall 88 against Golden State. That looks like a great spot. And then don't have a lot in the mid range at power forward like Covington, Grant. Especially Covington is priced up. Draymond looks fine, but nothing. Like I'd never really play Draymond very much. I like Bagley at 6,000. And then we have like Tice, who's cheap. We have Bertans is really cheap, but don't want to play him against the Clippers defense. And then to punt plays, you have like Zeke Naji at 3,800. We have probably Aminu, who's really cheap. Don't know if should be power forward eligible. He's 3,500 power forward, so he's also a guy that we can look to. So Naji and Aminu, 2 cheap options, and then you have Porzingis is 78 if he plays. He looks like a great option who's not cheap. He would be my favorite power forward play, I think, based on price tag, would be Porzingis. But we do have price tags to worry about, and we don't know his status yet. So right now, I'll just plug in Zeke Naji. 3,800 is, I think, going him or Aminu as one of the 2 cheap plays looks fine. And then last but not least, center options. We have Jokic looks really good at 10.5. He's my favorite pay up at center. Then we have Towns, who I like. Vooch. Embiid is probably my least favorite. Then Jared Allen, Capella are priced where they should be. I don't have much interest there. Holmes is priced at 64. I don't have interest there. If there's no Jeff Green, I like DeAndre Jordan at 55 against Sacramento. I like the price tag on him. He gives you a lot of upside. If there is no Green, just because they don't have and they don't really have any other small ball center that they want to play a lot of minutes. They have Vonleh, but he barely plays and he's not the best. So I do like DeAndre Jordan. We'll see what I do at power forward about Zeke Naji. Osman looks fine at 54. Then I love Harden and I love Dioram Fox. So that's it for the video. It's a bit of a long one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I didn't waste your time. Thank you for watching. You can hit the like button before you head out if you did enjoy the video. Best of luck tonight and catch you all later.